Hello, friends. It's Chop. This is a third party that is neither right nor left. I mean, because like
What?
you're okay, like it's a sort of this. Our current political system is defined by a tug of war between two sides, the right and the left, and they're pulling that rope. But what if I told you there was a third party that moved forward
Oh
instead
my
of
god.
laterally, back and
Wait a
forth in
minute.
either direction? They're moving the ball down the field rather than side to side.
And always twirling, twirling, twirling towards freedom.
I had honestly
No,
given up hope on that as a
but
possibility.
well, what about the special interests? Like the
Oh,
special interests wouldn't let them do that.
Well, Felix, the only special interest for this third party is the American people.
Oh my god.
Holy shit.
So I mean,
God.
I'm excited about this. This comes courtesy of the Washington Post opinion section. The headline is "Most third parties have failed. Here's why ours won't." And this is by David Jolly, Christine Todd Whitman, and Andrew Yang. That's right, Mr. Math himself is back, and he's coming to save America. Not with math. Well, math will play a big part in the third party.
presumably.
Obviously, I mean math. I mean, that's how you decide whether you're gonna whether you're for or against a policy is you do the math. It's right there. There's an objective measure of whether something is right or wrong, and it's called math. And it's like, obviously, yes, there are good reasons to be skeptical about third parties, but I have this new one though. I think it's gonna disrupt the two party duopoly, and let's see what they have to say here. So, the op-ed begins. Political extremism is ripping our nation apart, and the two major parties have failed to remedy the crisis. Last
Partisan
week, we're more polarized than ever right now. So what if we were tripolarized? What if there were three poles? That would break up the polarization. It'd be like the country wouldn't be divided between left and right. It would be divided between left, right, and forward and progress. So it says here, last week, the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack at the Capitol led us to relive one of the darkest days in U.S. history. The chilling culmination of an attempted electoral coup in the United States was the strongest evidence yet that we are facing the potential demise of our democracy.
Oh boy.
Polarization is fueling a spike in political intimidation. In the past 2 years, we've seen death threats and assassination plots against members of Congress, governors, Supreme Court justices, and even the Vice President of the United States.
But nobody who really put their back into it. I mean, this is the laziest attempts at this. I mean, compared to like the 60s and 70s, just absolutely no focus or energy on those goals.
Well, it's tearing our nation apart, and we're facing the potential demise of our democracy. Death threats are running rampant. It says, if nothing is done, the United States will not reach its 300th birthday this century in recognizable form. Fuck, I had my present picked out and everything. Fuck.
I was gonna pretend to faint at the tricentennial for attention.
That's why we are coming together, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, to build a new unifying political party for the majority of Americans who want to move past divisiveness and reject extremism.
Finally.
Americans have lost faith in government. Nearly 8 in 10 say the country is headed in the wrong direction, according to a recent survey. And 2/3 of voters think neither the Democrats nor the Republicans have the right priorities. Shockingly, 30 million Americans believe violence against the current government is justified. Wait, 30 million people believe that? Can we fucking maybe get off our asses and do something
seriously,
about it?
what the fuck, man?
I mean, if that many people believe that violence against our government is okay, could we maybe
let's
I'm just saying, like, maybe
get a DM going or something, for Christ's sake.
I'm just saying maybe we could have a video game that features a lot of violence committed against our government and the people inside it. That's all I'm saying. I mean, that's a lot of people. 30 million people. I mean, like that's not nothing. That's a tri-state area amount of people who want to do parodies to the institutions that govern us and the men and women who serve in government.
In a video game.
In a video game. The same number want to forcibly return former President Donald Trump to the White House. This is what happens when democracies fail. People feel their voices are not heard and radicalized to take up arms, leading to mainstream talk about civil war. How do you remedy such a crisis? In a system torn apart by two increasingly divided extremes, you must reintroduce choice and competition. The United States badly needs a new political party, one that reflects the moderate common sense majority. God, it's so easy. I mean, yes, 30 million people in this country want to violently overthrow the U.S. government, but that means there's at least 300 million people who want common sense solutions to everyday problems and feel underserved. So, I mean, hello, that's a majority of people in this country that are ready to vote for this party. As a result, today's outdated parties have failed by catering to the fringes. As a result, most Americans feel they aren't represented. Most third parties in U.S. history failed to take off, either because they were ideologically too narrow or the population was uninterested. But voters are calling for a new party now more than ever. For the first time in modern history, roughly half of Americans consider themselves independents, and 2/3 say a new party is needed and would vote for it. Surprisingly, a majority of Democrats and Republicans say they want another option too. This is sort of like how most Americans say they're spiritual,
Yeah.
but still believe in God of some kind. You know, it's just sort of like,
Yeah. They haven't really thought any of this through.
I bet if you did a poll, most Americans are planning on learning a second language in the next year. Just because someone says something on the phone to the nice man doesn't really mean anything.
150 million Americans have downloaded Duolingo.
Yeah,
And they will
150
speak Chinese by the end of the year.
150 million Americans are being made to feel sad by the owl, who's like, you've given up on your Mandarin lessons because the part of your brain that can learn anything has been cemented over.
As leaders and former elected officials, we're tired of just talking about a third way. So this month, we're merging our 3 national organizations, which represent the left, right, and center of the political spectrum. I would like to see a little bit of math on how Christy Todd Whitman represents the right wing or center, I don't know, or Andrew Yang represents the left wing of opinion in this country. I mean, I don't know. I just want to see a breakdown on how actually, because it seems like these are 3 people from the center of politics in every.
Well, I mean, Chrissy Todd Whitman did kill a bunch of people by lying about air quality at Ground Zero, so she's got some right wing bona fides there.
To build the launch pad for a new political party called Forward. The 2 major parties have hollowed out the sensible center of our political system, even though that's where most voters want to see them move. A new party must stake out the space in between. On every issue facing the nation, from the controversial to the mundane, we can find a reasonable approach most Americans agree on.
Absolutely.
On guns, for instance, most Americans don't agree with calls from the far left to confiscate all guns and repeal the Second Amendment, but they're also rightfully worried about the far right's insistence on eliminating gun laws. Okay, so I mean, I'd like to hear what their solution is here, but
Let's hear it.
Okay, well, they just say on climate change, most Americans don't agree.
Wait, but what about the gun thing, though?
Okay,
you know what they were going to say? You know why they can't say it? Because they're just going to say what the Democrats want to do.
Exactly. That's exactly what a background
this
check.
Party exists. It's the Democrats.
Yeah, it's the Democrats.
Yeah.
It's the Democrats.
Half the country thinks that they're the devil, and yes, it's like, oh, but they want the middle. They don't know anything.
Yeah,
these parties are here to absorb all of that.
This is
the moderate policies are being followed by the Democratic Party, and because moderation is literally paving a road to hell, everyone's miserable.
Yeah, their ideal party is like the Democrats, where no one says hi, I'm he, him.
That's it.
That's really it. That's their entire idea.
Well, okay, so next up, climate change. That's a big issue, right? On climate change, most Americans don't agree with calls from the far left to completely upend our economy and way of life, but they also reject the far right's denial that there even is a problem. On abortion,
the Democrat position is the one they can't say. Like the far left opinions are not represented in the Democratic Party.
The Democrats are not calling for us to upend our economy.
Year zero.
Make all cars and electricity illegal.
Yeah. Most Americans don't support the far left idea to shoot anyone with glasses on.
Yeah, most people don't support the far left climate change plan to incite riots against beef eaters, like Modi did near the start of his career.
Okay, on abortion, most Americans don't agree with the far left's extreme views on late-term abortions, but they are also alarmed by the far right's quest to make a woman's choice a criminal offense.
Let me guess, they would like to make abortion legal but limited nationwide.
I like how late-term abortion it literally just means like terminating an ectopic pregnancy.
Most of
But
the time,
like
yeah.
it's the thing you have to say to come up with like an unacceptable far left position
Yeah.
on abortion. That's a policy.
You have to
And
pretend that
also
like
a thing that requires there to be some sort of legal limitation on abortion.
Yeah.
and like the third trimester abortion thing, like it requires you to believe that like the left wing position is that like everyone should get an abortion in the third trimester. They should just
It's fun. Mandatory, in fact.
exactly. I've got a birthday party coming up, and in 2 weeks I'm due to deliver this baby. So could you please shoot me in the stomach with a gun?
Yeah, no, it's like it makes it sound like the Democratic position is that like they don't want to allow anyone to have abortions except in the third
Until the
trimester.
third trimester.
Yeah. We're not touching that
by the
bump,
way,
you fucking idiot.
By the way, I am so fucking sick of hearing from these sort of like, I'm young, I'm cool, I'm left wing, I'm also a Catholic pro-life extremist. They've all now, when faced with the horrific reality of a women being turned away from emergency rooms because they're like, could you come back in a week when your little insides are just a little bit more septic, because we're worried the lawyers may get us in trouble if we save your life now. Could you just risk it for another day or two, or like there's so many of these fucking like young cool Catholics who are just coming out and just saying, yeah, all that stuff that's not real, that's not true. And by the way, in Missouri and Texas, you'd have no problem terminating an ectopic pregnancy, despite like news story after news story of like women getting up to the point of death precisely because of the laws that these people have now achieved.
Yeah, no, it's just all the women who are like trapped in miserable marriages with gay guys are like just making the most insufferable fucking post ever. Who could have foreseen they got what they wanted and they're still unhappy? So now they're like yelling. They're the common argument that we're seeing, like the most disgusting fucking argument, is that any woman who actually is being turned away for an ectopic pregnancy, it's actually the left's fault because they've equated abortion with healthcare, and that's not an abortion. And we've never said that's an abortion.
Yes, it is. I mean, of course it is.
Right.
And whether you believe that or not, under the text of the law, it's an abortion.
Well, even if it isn't, it is an ambiguous case, and ambiguous cases have a freezing effect on the cowardly rich pussies who make up the medical profession.
Right.
Okay,
It's certainly enough.
that's
It's certainly
thing.
enough of a. It's certainly enough of a fucking abortion to scare doctors, which is what's actually important here.
Yeah.
And they say like, oh, by the text of like this Missouri law that some woman nearly died because of. Actually, if they had followed the letter of the law, it'd be totally fine for her to like not die in an emergency room. But they're like, Matt, you're exactly right. These laws are written in such a vague way so that no one wants to be the test case, because you could potentially end up being prosecuted for a felony for it. That being said, we are really seeing right now, and I understand, like, look, I don't relish the thought of going to jail, but if you're a doctor and you just like go along with this shit, like either quit your job or find out who you can lie to, and like someone who can keep a secret. Because like I do not understand, like, I mean, well, I do know perfectly well, like most doctors are unfeeling, unhuman pricks. So it's pretty easy for them to just look at a woman on the brink of death and being like, ooh, can I talk to legal before I get back to you about this? Because anything that will fuck up their golf schedule, they don't want to hear about. And by the way, the American healthcare system has already inured them to massive death and suffering, because if you don't have insurance, they don't really give a shit about you. Like they're not.
They can't.
Yeah,
My hands are tied.
Yeah, out of my hands. I mean, it just the way this thing is written, everything will be fine if doctors don't primarily think about covering their own ass, which they never do. That's the last thing a doctor thinks about on the job.
So it's just a brief digression on abortion, but it says, in a quote of the Ford Party, on abortion, most Americans don't agree with the far left's extreme views on late-term abortion.
The far left's extreme views of shooting toddlers in the head.
The far left's extreme position on retroactive abortions up until the age of 18.
Yeah.
The far left's position that abortions feel good.
But they're also alarmed by the far right's quest to make a woman's choice a criminal offense. I mean, once again, this is, I mean, like this, I chose this op-ed here piece because it really does give the lie to the entire idea of centrism. Because like centrism is supposed to be like, on the scale, the center is just supposed to be the thing holding the two dishes that bounce back and forth. But like having late trimester abortions be legal because they're medically necessary and making all abortions illegal and a criminal felony, those two don't balance out. Those are not equally extreme positions.
Yeah.
But guess what? Americans, by public opinion, don't regard that to be the case either.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, they've given 3 examples of major controversial issues facing the American voters, and have not offered a single thing that they would do differently about them.
Because they would have to admit that they just want to reskin the Democratic Party.
To succeed, a new party must break down the barriers that stand between voters and more political choices. Accordingly, we will passionately advocate electoral changes such as ranked choice voting and open primaries. For the end of gerrymandering and for nationwide protection of voting rights and a push to make voting remarkably easy for anyone and incredibly secure for everyone. Okay, by their previous metric, that is a far left position.
Yep.
Ending gerrymandering and making voting easier is a position that, if you had to balance it out, would be like, well, the far right is against anyone voting. So somewhere in the middle, they should be like, well, we're going to end gerrymandering for some districts.
Right.
Or, we're going to make it very easy for like some people to vote. And others, we're actually going to make it illegal for them to vote. Going on, without systematic changes, Americans will be left with a closed system and fewer options on the ballot. These reforms go hand in hand with a new party. Some call third parties spoilers, but the system is already spoiled. There are more than 500,000 elected positions in the United States, but a recent study found that more than 70% of races on ballots in 2020 were unopposed or uncontested. A tiny sliver of U.S. congressional seats will have close races this November. The two major parties have shut out competition, and America is suffering as a result. That's why we're proposing the first open party. Americans of all stripes, it's the first key party nationwide. We're taking all comers. Americans of all stripes, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, are invited to be a part of the process without abandoning their existing political affiliations. By joining us to discuss building an optimistic and inclusive home for the politically homeless majority. Our merged organizations are just the starting point. The launch pad for this movement. We are planning liftoff at a national convention next summer and will soon seek state-by-state ballot access to run candidates in 2024 and beyond. We are actively recruiting former U.S. representatives, governors, entrepreneurs, top political operatives, and community leaders to make it happen. America's founders warned about the dangers of a two-party system. Today, we're living with the dire consequences. Giving Americans more choices is important, not just for restoring civility. Our lives, our livelihoods, and our way of life depend on it. Wow, that is a visionary political
It's
party.
hot fire.
That's bars.
So basically, if you read between the lines here, the solutions they're offering are boilerplate Democratic Party political platform, but they're starting a new political party that anyone can join.
Yeah, I feel like they. I mean, every 5 years, someone has this idea, right? They've done it. The interval is every 2 years in the UK. But I feel like to actually make this idea interesting, I loathe to give these people a suggestion, but to make this idea interesting, I want to rewind to when they say we have thinkers from the left, right, and center. What if they actually meant that?
Yeah.
What if they had like David Ayers from the left